Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Kicking It with Cal. I'm your host, Cal Denicky, and tonight we have an extremely special guest. We've got James Calmese here with us today, longtime childhood friend in the building. We're going to be catching up tonight. So, James, how have you been, man?
I've been good, Cal. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. James, tell me about the idea of you being an entrepreneur, and when did this all start in your life?
Okay, so from the beginning, my dad has been a DJ all of my life, so he's always been around music. Um, and then from there, it was like I was always in circles where the parents always did something for themselves. I saw that more so, and once I got to the position of in college and learning more about music and things like that, I was like, oh, I can do this. I can do this. And I didn't grow up the wealthiest kid either. So it was kind of like most of the people I see that are doing this, obviously because the successful ones are more in your face about it. They're well off.
Mhm.
I'm pretty confident in music, so I can do this. I can pull this off. So the inspiration just stems from my dad and seeing successful entrepreneurs, and and music being like, I had a phase similar to you where it was like I'm making music, I'm having fun,
Mhm.
but a little further than you, like I toured as an artist and I got to do really cool things. So it was like now I get to provide that for people. So that's what keeps me going.
Yeah, I love that. And you've booked several artists in your time over the years. I want to know a lot about these artists. So, can you tell me first just what is the process like of booking an artist to come to an event that you're putting on?
Yeah, so it's really easy, but it's also not because you have to have someone has to be like you have to have like the social proof that you're experienced, but you also have to like move accordingly and professionally. So it really is as simple as just sending an email, getting a booking quote, and then just being transparent. Like this is the space, this is the capacity, this is my budget. If can you work with it or not? And sometimes they'll be like, no, we do shows for this amount. And sometimes they'll be like, yeah, there's a lot of variables that you can negotiate that I've learned along the way. Because when I booked Montana at 300, I didn't know any of this, so I paid
Mhm.
full price. And after that, and that was successful. But after that, I kind of learned a few things, and it was like, oh, okay. So there's you that first price isn't always the first price, and I'm someone who like yes, artists are worth what they say in a sense, but also it has to make sense on the numbers wise as far as tickets and yeah. But I've booked some really dope artists, and it's been really inspiring in a sense, especially this past one. So
Yeah, can you tell me just a few of the artists you've booked? Because I've seen some of your stuff over the years, and I've listened to Dizzy Wright's music and some of these people, and I'm just like, man, like my friend has done this. Like that's
yeah,
super dope.
um, so yeah, start. I'll try to go back to the beginning. So
Hmm.
Montana 300 was my first major. And there's tiers of artists. There's like A, B, C, and then there's like the underground level. So I've had Montana 300. There's a guy called Big Baby Scumbag where I did a collab with Swerve Samuels. I had Kirk Bangs out here. Um, and then after that, I had Hurricane Wisdom. And then Hurricane Wisdom's really cool because I booked him right before he blew. So I had him in Quincy, and then I did a 2 city tour with him in Florida, and that was cool. And then I just had Dizzy Wright, and those are just the artists I booked. But like I also manage artists, so like I've had artists go to Chicago and open up for artists. So they've opened up for like artists like Chris Webby, Montana. They've opened for Montana 300. They've opened for Currency, and it's cool because sometimes we get to meet them and sometimes we don't. But like when I book them, I usually get to meet them. And then the last one was Dizzy Wright, and Dizzy help is like he's more positive kind of artist, and he talks about struggle and overcoming that or just powering through it. So that one was special to me, and that was my most recent one.
Very cool. And so when you're bringing people together at events like this, how does it feel for you to know you put on you did the groundwork for bringing people together to experience something like they have?
Oh man, Cal, let me tell you, like
Mhm.
the first show with Montana 300, right? Normally if you're a kid when we're from super small areas, right? There's
Mhm.
not a lot of that.
Yeah.
Um, so I had a kid come up to me after the Montana 300 concert. He got to buy merch. He got the I think I'm pretty sure I gave him a free meet and greet. I shouldn't have because the money was didn't make sense, but I gave him a free meet and greet. Um, and after the show, he called me. He's like, and he started crying on my shoulder. And he's like, "Man, my parents don't let me get to do stuff like this because they're never here." And he was like, "This just meant a lot to me. My Montana means so much. He helped me through this, and this." Like legit tears on my shoulder, and I was like, "Oh." That's and now I'm at a phase where I recognize those as providing these moments for people, because like they listen to these people get them through those tough days, and it's like now they get to see them in person in their backyard instead of driving 2 hours, 5 hours, or however long. Now they get to see them in their backyard, and as a like local guy, because my alias online is just James, because I want people to know I am just like I still work a 9 to 5. I still but I grind on when I grind my 5 to 9,
Mhm.
and it's like I want people to know anything is possible. You can do anything you put your mind to. It's just so cool to give people these moments, and I also get these moments because it was at first I liked being in the limelight, but now I sit on the side and I meet everyone that comes through the door. I try to speak, especially if it's a new face. I get so many people that just come to events simply because I'm throwing the event.
Mhm.
They don't care who's performing. They're like, no, that's a James event. That's a good vibes event. Like I'm going.
Mhm.
So it's
Man,
been
that
cool.
that story of someone crying, saying, "Hey, like this meant the world to me," that's something you'll never forget. And
Yeah.
that's really cool to hear. I was at a small concert a couple months ago, Coda, the friend who I know you know of in
Yeah.
Tampa, and there was maybe 200 max people there. I was in the front row whole night, just having a great time, and that was the best concert I've been to. Like I've been to big stadium shows and like that's cool, but that intimate
Dude,
scene and just like feeling like you could just go up and have a conversation. He brought a couple, rappers up from the crowd and they started going off. It was something I'll never forget. So having those, types of events I think is amazing. So
that's awesome.
shout
I
out
have
to
an
you for
artist
doing
that
what you're
opened for
doing.
Coda. I have an artist that
Really,
opened for Coda. Yeah.
very
So
cool.
yeah. Yeah. But Coda's like top 10 for me. So I think that I
Mhm.
wanted to go to that last tour, but it
Mhm.
just the date didn't work out because he was in Chicago. It just didn't work out, man. But that's awesome. You got to go. Tell me about that
Mhm.
experience.
I pulled up. I drove about 30 minutes and
Yeah.
I was like looking to pay someone for parking and they're like, no, like this is just a bar. Like you just park and walk in. And I was like, really? That's not, I mean, I've been a fan of his for a long time, maybe 5 years or so. And so I was just
Yeah.
expecting like, pay for parking all this. And it was just so low key, like first show of the tour. And just brought the vibes, brought the energy, and it just, I don't know. I think back to that night and like probably like the kid at your concert, like
Yeah.
you just have good memories from it. So yeah, I love what you're doing. And with what you're doing comes feedback. And I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on feedback you've gotten from events, whether that's been negative or positive. And what do you prefer? What's more meaningful to you? Or if you could share a story about feedback you've gotten from things you've put on.
Man, so the thing about me is I thrive off feedback.
Hmm.
This is my first time. Like, there's really no mentor for what I'm doing. I'm figuring out. Like, I tell a lot of people that I'm failing up. Like, because like shows don't always make money, but like thank God I have a career. Shows don't always make money, and things don't always work out the way. Like I've been scammed too. Like I've had a sound guy. I booked out a third party sound system that and then it's like we have to move dates, and then I never hear from that sound guy again. You
Hmm.
know, but feed. So I thrive on feedback. I've had good and negative, but I'm thankful that I've had mostly good. A lot of constructive criticism because I do a DIY setup. So I own the stage. Every time I have a show, I used to haul the stage from my house to the venue. I own all the equipment, so I take all my equipment, and I've had people who didn't know that, like, yo, this isn't working right. This isn't da da da. But then once they hear that, they're like, oh, okay. And I'm just like, yeah, give me a second, I'll get it fixed because I'm learning on the fly early on. And as of lately, really the only criticism has been the spaces are too small,
Hmm.
or we pivoted at my last show when we tested a different setup. And they were like, yeah, we kind of like the old setup, and that's probably the most recent. But I think the biggest critique has been like, to use use professional sound over your DIY when I had biggest artists. Like when I did Hurricane Wisdom, I used my own setup and it went fine, but it wasn't what he deserved, you know.
Mhm.
And that was probably criticism from myself, like in conversation with the DJs that worked that night and things like that. And then positive feedback, man. People are just grateful that like I give a lot of local artists a chance. You know, Hurricane Wisdom's huge now. He's toured with Sexy Red, Boss Mandilo, like you know, and it's crazy. Like I can text his manager and be like, hey, you know, I need some advice, or there's a consultation fee usually, but like I still have that access. But like Hurricane Wisdom was here, he was dapping up artists like, yeah, that was a great set. You know what I'm saying? So it's also moments like that. Um, but yeah, so feedback is big on what I do because I wouldn't be able to do it without it. So I'm usually very receptive depending on how it's delivered in a
Yeah,
sense.
cool. And one of your big accomplishments recently is sessions. So can you tell us a little bit about sessions and what happened with what's going on in Quincy?
Yeah, so I used to throw most of my events over on at this place on Main Street, but my biggest event of the year, they requested that I do something in the middle of that, and I did it for them. And so when it came to building up my event, I didn't get a lot of support. And then there was just some comments made that weren't tasteful. So it was like, I don't have a ton of money, but like after hearing that, I wouldn't be able to throw shows for a while as I saved. So I was like, I'm just gonna go for it. Um, and the entryway wasn't as expensive as I thought, but you know, thank God I have a career. So Sessions is a dive bar similar to like I don't want to say where you saw Coda because that probably wasn't just that was probably more a venue than a bar. But Sessions will be a place where it's like live music, live comedy. We're gonna go throw themed events. We're also gonna mix it up and offer alternative events like sip and paint, and I want to get a men's mental health corner, a men's corner going, simply because there's a lot of young fathers in this community, and they're winging it, and we have a lot of educated men in this community that can help guide them and just support them. And so Sessions is kind of going to be a safe place for people of all walks. And a lot of people say that about their spaces, but like I mean that. My priority is to provide a safe space. I look forward to the poetry nights. Poetry can be very intimate, very vulnerable. So I look forward to those, but I also look forward to karaoke nights where everyone is drinking and they're singing at the top of their lungs. And so Sessions it starts off as just a regular dive bar, and then it's going to allow people to give it the meaning they want because it's sessions. Like when you think of a session, you think of different kind of things. So
Mm. I like what you did there. That's creative. And I mean, I've never heard of anyone wanting to make a space like that for as many alternative types of sessions that you want to put on. That's super dope. And when I'm back in Illinois this summer, I'd love to stop by and check it out and see what you got going on.
man, I'd love to have you because like outside of music, I also host a basketball league. So it's like you'll be able to come in, you'll see the trophies and like the teams who won, like the championships, and it's this. I don't want to say I want to be a community hub, but I do want to be like a safe space for people of all walks.
hmm Yeah, and speaking of basketball, you and I used to hoop back in the day at the
Yeah,
Y for hours and hours. So tell me about your basketball league. Where did this idea originate and how did it come to fruition?
man. So I mean, you're a hooper, so it never leaves. It never go. It's every time you see a court, it's like I get a couple shots up. College was intramural ball mostly, and then after that, I was hit by a car, so it was like basketball was kind of done for me. So it's kind of like my legs don't move the same. It's weird. So from that, it was like, man, I'm just we go play pickup, but I'm only good for 1 or 2 games, and it's when you're not one of the better hoopers, people don't play seriously. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
hmm
now I'm being disrespected, and it's like, man, how can I provide like competitive hoops at a consistent level? How can we get that at a consistent level? So me and my brother KJ, I wrote this idea out on my whiteboard. I keep a big old whiteboard in my room. I planned it out, and I was like, "Yo, is this crazy?" He's like, yeah, it's crazy. Like, I don't know, I don't know how you're gonna do this. Um, but he was like, look, whatever you need, I got you. So he lived at the time. I lived in Jacksonville, and he lived in Quincy, and so every we got the plan in. You know, we do the Zoom, we do the FaceTimes, and you know, it was a lot of him. I had a lot of ideas, and it was a lot of him saying, "This will work right now. This will work in the future. This won't work." It was a lot of him helping me pick when to do what. And the Jacksonville League was fun, right? It was competitive, but I think there were some moments where people were like, you know, we had one team that completely just stopped showing up because it wasn't what they thought it was, and I get that. And then we wanted to continue it, but someone kind of stole the wave, and they kind of went around me and excluded us from our next move. It happens. I get that. Um, so we took a break in 23 and in 24. But in 24, I had moved to Quincy, so we got the plan. I was like, we got to get some like more people involved outside of us. So we were asking people like, do you guys want to be a part of this committee? We want to bring our We Hoop and Basketball League back. And we had people. We had my friend Devin, and then a former Blue Devil sign up to be on the committee and be involved and help us run it. And from there, man, it took off. We had nice jerseys. I figured out the social media joint, and so we had full uniforms. We were outside. We had somebody who would pull up with a canopy, and they had fish fry. They're selling plates. We had a fresh squeeze, a cold press juicer come, and he'd set up sell fresh squeezed juice. And the community kind of came out because we were outside at the time. So it was like the community kind of came out, and that was like, man, those are vibes because it was like competitive games. The games have referees. We were seeing dunks. We were seeing like people hit 7, 8 threes in a game. Like, and it was like, okay, yeah, this is the atmosphere we want. Because although we're in small communities, we got hoopers.
Yeah.
Macomb, Quincy, we have hoopers.
Hey, you're in the Gem City. There's some hoopers out there.
Yeah. So and after high school, if they don't have the resources to go off to college, it's kind of like, what are they doing with it? So the Wii Hooping League, what I aspire to do, and I've already begun to do, is reach out to some of these semi-pro leagues to kind of like, yo, like you should see what we got going on over here. There's no promises, but it's like I post highlight reels, I post of games, I post stats, I post all of that. And there's a St. Louis semi-pro team, and I've been in contact with them. I was like, hey, you guys should consider coming out here for we got this event, and just trying to figure out, because some of these guys they waste away, like they just work in a factory, and you have to do what you got to do. But man, some of them just don't know. I've had friends who played football overseas professionally. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I know it's possible to do that. And, he played D3 in college, and his first year of college he didn't play at all. So it was like, how can I provide a positive um, resource to the community or positively impact it? Because I'm not doing that. I'm just sitting around, and like I did it once, I can do it again. So
Yeah.
that's where that stems from.
I love that you're doing that because to give adults something to look forward to after they're done working or done with school or whatever, it's really meaningful. And I'm just as I get older, I start to find the little joys of life of, just little things you look forward to in the week. And I'm sure everyone in that league is hopefully super appreciative of what you're doing for them.
Yeah. Oh man, it's a little bit of both. They mad at the refs, and like we're all grown men, so not everybody feels the need to respect everybody, and we ran into that. But it's simmered down. We came into this year wanting to do one session. Our goal was just if we can get one off, we were successful. But we got two, and the second time we were able to use the YMCA gym, and I'm thankful to them for allowing us to use their space. We rented the gym every Saturday, and from there it's been like I've had players tell me like, yeah, I'm working out off, like they're calling the off season, like they're like I'm in the off season, I'm in the gym. And one guy was like, yeah, I stopped drinking completely, just so I can get ready for the bath. And there's no cash prize. It's you get a trophy, you get rings. I try to give them that moment, right? Whether this dies next year, I don't think it will, but I try to give them this moment. It was like, your hard work paid off, So I've had guys like, man, I've lost like 30 pounds just from,
Mm.
and, I stopped drinking, they're like, I'm waking up early. I'm, like you see it affect them in so many ways. And it's like, wow, I can't believe this basketball league had that impact. Um, and, like I said, you get people that that don't appreciate it that much. But in that moment, I'll take the five people that do over the one that's just louder. You know, so
For sure. Um, And speaking of podcasts, you have your own podcast as well. So I want to hear your origin stories from that as well. It's a kickback pod. So tell
yeah,
me, from the beginning, where did that stem from? How's it going? I've been catching up as I texted you recently and discovered it and been listening to a few episodes and love what you're doing. So the floor is yours.
man, Cal, you're making me realize I do a lot of stuff, man. um, so it's a kickback pod started in 2020. We were in a spare room in the house I lived in at the time. My friend Marcellus, he has Treacher Collins syndrome, but he doesn't let that slow him down, right? He doesn't, and I respect that so much. He was like, "Man, I want to do a podcast, but I don't really know." And see, I'm one of those friends that's like, if you say it, we gonna do it. Like we
Mhm.
gonna do it. Don't come around just saying you gonna do anything because I'm gonna make you do it, and I'll do it with you. And so um, from there, we were like, okay, I guess we're doing it. And, I was just reflecting because it was five. So it's been 5 years since we shot our first episode last October. And I was reflecting, like, I saw the clip, our very first clip, and it's like the mic's not even like recording us. We're still using like the camera audio on the
Mhm.
video. We don't know what we're doing. And
Yep.
we
That's
say
how it all starts.
there's a lot of awkward pauses and things like that. So now it's like, we have this space so where it's like we're generally just we're kicking it. Like that's my brother, that's my friend. We're literally just kicking it, talking about these things. And the podcast has been good, not only as a way for us to just connect once a week, um, but it's also pushed him because like this past year we were able to travel. Like we were able to go to Chicago and shoot the podcast and interview platforms in Chicago. We've been invited to places in Iowa. We've been invited to places in Indianapolis, and we just get to hear a lot and share a lot of stories. Like it's just, and that's been really cool as we continue to expand. And we really just figured out how to promote it. So like you were like, how do you feel about constantly promoting yourself to the masses?
Mhm.
And, it's weird. It's weird because the feedback, sometimes it's like breaks your heart. But
Mhm.
and then there's those comments that are like, "Nah, keep going, y'all killing it. Like, keep up
Yeah.
the good work." And Marcel is. I don't think he reads the comments a lot. He kind of lets me handle the social media. Um, he helps edit the clips. We have this program called Opus Clip, and so we it clips it for us, and now we figured out how to schedule them. That's how we're able to be so consistent. But like we cost 100 and we're at 140,000 views on YouTube. We're in the top 30% on Spotify. We have over 2,700 podcast plays on the Spotify platform, and it's just like all these, and it's like okay, people are listening to us, so it's like
Mhm.
we can't be that far off. We're at 81 episodes, and it's most podcasts don't make it to 10.
Right.
Yeah, so it's kind of yeah, so it's like but it's been fun because we get to talk about a lot of sensitive things, and we don't really have a filter, which some people have expressed that to us before, like, but we genuinely want to give off the like this is just us kicking it, like we want the natural. You guys want to see us authentic. Of course, it's a little bit polished,
Mhm.
because we don't want to just ramble about things. I told them the other day, like, we don't want to just be two guys with a microphone either. Like, we want our guests to bring value. We want to bring value. We don't want people just, oh, they're not really talking about nothing.
Right.
So, but the podcasting it's been fun. It's been a cool experience for sure.
Yeah.
Tell me about your podcasting experience a little bit. How's that been?
I I really enjoy it. I also 2020 sitting around COVID, like my brain just, what can I do? What do I want to do? So it all started from me having a conversation with David Bracy over Instagram Live, and we were just talking about what was going on, especially politically at that time with, all the tension in our country. And a lot of people gave us some feedback like, hey, like, kids that we grew up with, just reaching out like, I didn't know you and David still talked, or I didn't, this is kind of cool. And so even just like a few people saying like, hey, it's just him and I having a conversation, but that really kind of like sparked my interest. And then I want to say in 2022, I read a book, and the premise was that a guy traveled the world having what he called curiosity conversations with people of all walks of life. And I just thought it was the coolest thing. And he somehow had access to some like really famous people. Like he went to Russia and spoke to Putin. He was traveling all over the US talking to athletes, musicians, etc. And after reading that book, I just became inspired to want to just pick people's brains even more. I love people. I'm a teacher, I'm a coach. Like human connection is my forte. And so why not continue that with something that I can access through Zoom or through face to face. And a lot more of my podcasts come through Zoom just because I'm living in Florida and a majority of the true connections I have are back in the Midwest, specifically in Illinois. So it makes it a little bit more difficult. I'd rather have you sitting here with me right now, James, but obviously that's not feasible. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where the origins came from. And I don't have many goals. I just want to have great conversations and I want to catch up and I want to hopefully have, one of my students hear this and think, oh, wow, like, I've always wanted to work in the music industry. Like, hey, Mr. Denicky, maybe you could connect me with just James. And, those little things just, they add up. And I think life is about connections. And so, you and I getting to do this is just super cool that we get to catch up after a long time. And like my podcast is a reason that it
Mm.
keeps me in touch with people and it really motivates me in getting to hear stories and other people getting to hear stories I think is fantastic. So what would you say is your favorite part about the podcast? Was there a has there been a moment or is there something that you didn't expect going into it? Like, wow, that is really cool.
I think similar to you, having people listen to it and then reach out to you and like, whoa, that makes it because we've touched on a lot of like sensitive things that people are afraid to have those conversations, right? Especially when it comes to race, like in the community that I'm in, race it's like taboo in a sense, like they act like it doesn't exist, and we're not afraid to have those conversations. We talked about the token black guy, and a lot of people didn't realize what that was, and we've had a lot of our friends kind of look in the mirror and say, "Yo, have I ever treated you like that?" And it brought some really honest conversations out of people. Um, and I think that only strengthens certain relationships, right? For the people that were curious, and like I think that is the biggest moment because that was one where we got a lot of feedback because there was a lot of people like not only were our friends of other colors like, "Yo, have we ever like we're sorry," and then but also people that look like me were like, "Yo, that's been me." Is that why? And then that makes them question like, is that why we're friends? And like I said, it only strengthens relationships because a lot of people avoid tough conversations in this day and age, and you can't really build strong relationships if you avoid the tough conversations. So, and that was just one of those ones that even still to this day, I had someone reach out to me like, "What is that? What does that mean?" And so, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you getting to have that conversation with Marcellus and to, send it out to the masses, as we say, is like you're gonna inspire, you're going to create something in someone's mind where maybe they do ask or maybe they have that conversation and you guys being vulnerable with that kind of stuff, it's meaningful. And I think especially, as men, we avoid that a lot of times. We don't want to talk about the emotional side, but it's obvious
yeah,
that you're not afraid to do that. And with your space that you're opening up, with everything you're doing, it's great to hear. So I'm proud of you, man.
I appreciate that, Cal.
Last thing I wanted to touch on is building connections because it's obvious that you're great at it. So, what does it mean to you to build connections, and what does that look like for you?
Oh man, I'm glad it looks like that. So I actually have like really bad. So I got sober. I had a really bad drinking problem in college, and I finally just I beat it. And I was sober for 3 years, and then I was able to drink casually. So now it's like I'm back sober. Um, and I bring that up because that's been a hiccup in me socializing. So there's a lot of people, and I don't socialize like I have to get something out of this conversation. I don't want to talk about the weather. I want to talk about like why'd you do that way? Like explain, just a little more depth to the conversations, not so much surface level.
Mhm.
So when it comes to networking for me, I think it's cool to have because like you and I, since I very first moved from Macomb, you were one of the few people I always stayed in touch with, whether it was once a year, twice a year, or we just saw each other at games. You were someone I've always stayed in touch with since we were kids, and there that's powerful to me, right? And thankful for social media as well. But it's just moments like that. It's like me and you can have this conversation, and then I can talk to Chris. But I have friends who like live in other countries I can talk to. So networking and just building a sense of community in your own. Like I have friends that I would meet on Discord and music. That's allowed me to go to Florida and do shows, and go to New York and do shows, and go to California and do shows. Like I'm able to do so much simply because I've been able to get battle my social anxiety in a sense. And like the podcast itself has helped with that because I do put myself out there, and I do encourage people to like approach me like, and I'm very transparent on it. Like if you see me sitting on the wall in the corner like somewhere, like I promise I'm not mad or angry. I'm like really trying to like muster up the courage to be here. And once I get through that, it's like you would never know that I was like anxious the entire time. Um, but it's important. Like a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't like being around people, et cetera, et cetera." But like once you're around the right people, though, it's a lot easier. And the only way to figure out if you're around the right people is to communicate with them and is to network and see if you have the same interests and things like that.
Cool. I love that. The last thing I like to do on my podcast is, kind of divert from the conversation we're having and just ask you what's one thing on your mind? What's something that is going on in your life, whether it's, family related, sports related, watching TV, like what's on James' mind on January 7th, 2026?
January 7th, 2026, man, is how my impact. How do I leave a positive impact? I think that's something I ask myself every day. I'm a father, so it's like how do I prepare my daughter for this world and let her know that it's not always going to be bad? How do I show her that sometimes it's up to you to leave that positive impact despite your upbringing? And she lives a really comfortable life, but it's just, I don't want her to be so privileged to the point where she looks down on someone who does not. So I think fatherhood's on my mind, and how do I leave a positive impact and positively affect the community I'm in? And I think that's something I ask myself every day. And I think that's why I do the things I do and want to provide what I want to provide, because you can't take money with you when it's gone. So
Facts.
how do I positively impact my community and let people know they can do anything they put their minds to? Because you get to see Jesse James do anything he puts his mind to, book whoever he wants. If he wants a basketball league, he figures out how to have a basketball league. So how can I positively remind that kid that is sitting at home with no phone, no TV, that he's still capable to do anything he puts his mind to?
Yeah. And with what you're doing with your basketball league, opening up sessions and providing people a space, I know that you're leaving an impact and a positive one. And as a teacher, I don't always see the fruits of my labor in a class. It's hard for a 13, 14-year-old to express their gratitude, but it comes back later in life. Like what you're doing right now you will see the benefits of it if you don't see it right now. Like it always comes back for doing the right thing. So just wanted to say thank you for coming on, and I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks, Cal. Thank you for the invite, man. It was good to see you.